Welcome back, fellow adventurers, to a brand new video of Frog God Games YouTube channel. My name is Ben Barsh. I'm your guide, dungeon master, and host here at Frog God Games for any of your video content needs. Now, today I have a very fun video for you guys. If you remember back in the day, which I think was like a couple months ago, I did a video where I took Swords and Wizardry rules and ported them into 5th edition. I realized that there's a lot of Swords and Wizardry players on this channel, so I wanted to do a video where I talk about what rules I take from 5th edition and then port into Swords and Wizardry when I play Swords and Wizardry. If you missed the video, just click this card above and you can go watch it. It's a quick little fun video. It did well, so I wanted to make sure to do the inverse for you guys that don't play 5th edition, but maybe want to like experiment with some new rules. If you do not have Swords and Wizardry, you're in luck. Swords and Wizardry is a free PDF download from the Frog God Games website. It's the top link in the description. You can just click on it, purchase it for $0, and then download and start playing it as soon as next weekend. If you would like the hardcover version, it is $35 on the website, so just something to keep in mind while you're shopping around Frog God Games. Now, the first rule that I take from 5th edition and move into Swords and Wizardry is advantage and disadvantage. So basically what advantage and disadvantage is, I'll start with advantage first. Advantage is when a character does something cool or excels in a certain field, thus granting them advantage on a roll. So basically what would happen is, say you're rolling a d20 for like a skill check or something, and you roll a 14 and a 16. With advantage, if your DM grants you advantage, you get to keep that 16 because it's the higher roll. And the inverse for disadvantage, say your character is trying to do something that's completely out of the norm for them, they have no skill in it whatsoever, but the DM still lets them give it a try, you'll have disadvantage. So say you roll again 14, 16, you get to keep the 14. The Dungeon Master or the referee is the person who grants the advantage or disadvantage, so just DMs keep it into consideration of the context. If you think a player, went out of the ordinary to try to figure out what the problem was, or just did something heroic, maybe just grant them advantage. And on the inverse, if they do something very stupid or trying to do something out of their ordinary, put out the disadvantage on them. It adds a little flair to the game, adds a little bit more randomness, and it can really lead to some epic moments. I know in my personal game, I've had disadvantage as like a monster while I was dungeon mastering, and I don't use a DM screen, so I roll in front of my table, and I still rolled 2 nat 20s. It was like the craziest moment in our campaign so far, and we all still talk about it, so it just can add a little bit of flair to your campaign. The second rule that I take from 5th edition and I move into Swords and Wizardry is death saving throws. This is not sponsored by Death Saves. Joe Manganiello owns this company. It's Dungeons & Dragons streetwear, basically. It's really cool. We actually filmed a video with Joe Manganiello this last GaryCon. It was GaryCon 2019, I believe is the year. Click the card above if you want to check that out. He was super fun to have in Bill Webb's game. Just check it out if you haven't seen it yet. So basically what a death saving throw is when your character is dead, so they're at 0 hit points, laying unconscious on the ground, you start making death saving throws. And in order for your character to live or die, you have to either succeed on 3 death saves or fail 3 death saves. The death saves are determined by rolling a d20, and then if you get a 10 or higher, you get to come back to life or your character is stabilized, whereas if you fail your 3, your character's done. 3 important things to remember about death saving throws of what we use in my game is if a monster strikes you while you are down unconscious on the ground making your death saves, that automatically counts as 2 failures. So if you have any amount of failures and you get struck while you're on the ground, you're dead. And when I say number, I mean, higher than 0. So 1, 2, or, well, if you had 3, you would be already dead. If you roll a natural 1, that is 2 death saves automatically failed. So you're already 2 out of 3 if your first one's a natural 1. And then if you roll a natural 20, you are conscious with 1 hit point. However, I homebrew this to be if you roll a natural 20, you only get 2 successes instead of just automatically 1 hit point. That, in my opinion, puts it on par with the critical failure because they're the same odds, 1 in 20. And my group, we like to have sort of the same outcomes. If you get a critical success, an amazing thing happens, and if you fail, a terrible thing happens. But we like those amazing and terrible things to be sort of on the same level, so one doesn't, sort of overcome the other one. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically, homebrew, if you roll that death saving throw, it's 2 successes. If we're talking about adding dramatic flair to your game of Swords and Wizardry, this really is a way to do it. It really makes the game more interesting for the death perspective of it, and we just had a lot of really fun moments with it. I don't run death saving throws for any monsters or any bosses or anything like that. Once they're dead, they're dead. That's generally how, monster death happens in the games of Dungeons & Dragons or Swords and Wizardry. However, the players get to roll the death saving throws if they fall unconscious. The third rule that I include into my Swords and Wizardry games is the idea of inspiration. Now, if you play 5th edition, you kind of know that inspiration is it's a touchy subject because not a lot of people love it. But I've taken it and sort of used it in a different light. Basically, what inspiration is your character does an amazing feat. They really solve a puzzle with haste or intelligence. They save one of the party members in a very heroic way. Anything like that, any really heroic deed, you were rewarded with inspiration. And what an inspiration is basically a reroll. So if you do that heroic deed and your dungeon master says, wow, that was really cool, you are now granted an inspiration point. The character can say, okay, awesome, I have a random reroll. I'm going to go for something crazy heroic again because I get to roll that die again if it's a bad roll. Now, the critique on this is that a heroic deed in real time doesn't really equate to random luck in the future. And I do understand this argument. However, I've sort of used it just to fuel the idea of going above and beyond. And it helps really instate the rule of cool in my game. So, the players and the characters are going for things in the game that, specifically wouldn't be feasible. But they're doing something because it would be really cool or really heroic and really save the day. So I've put the inspiration point on limit to 1 at a time, and you have to use it within that same day. If not, the inspiration just goes away. No harm, no foul. And that wraps it up for my 3 5th edition rules that I always use in my Swords and Wizardry games. If you guys did enjoy this video, I'd be happy to make another one. I often take other rules from other RPGs and then port them into my Swords and Wizardry games when I'm playing. And I do understand that Swords and Wizardry is meant to be bare bones. It's supposed to be like OD&D, very simple, just, going out adventuring. But when you play so many games, at least with my group, when you play so many games, we like to add in some new flavor things that really won't make a killer difference in the game. They'll just add a little bit more dramatic flair. So if you guys would like to see more of these videos, just let me know in the comment section down below. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe because once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're doing a giveaway. So stay tuned for that. That'll be announced on this channel. If you like this video at any time, please give it a like. That helps us out a lot. And that's it for today's video. Come back next Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for your next video here from Frog God Games. My name is Ben Barsh, and you can find me and all my social medias in the description down below, along with all the Frog God Games social medias. That's it for me. Keep those rolls and spirits high, and we will see you next time.